One thing that is very important for us writers to realize is that writing is a process. And I'm going to go over the five basic strategies or stages of writing. We pre write, we draft, revise, edit, and then publish. Sometimes these stages here, the one through three, maybe in four, kind of go back and forth sometimes. But typically speaking, you're going to pre-write first. You're going to jot your ideas down in different formats. There's webbing, there's outlining, and then start drafting into something that looks a little bit more similar to an essay. And then excuse me, revise, edit, revising. With revising, you might be moving paragraphs around, moving sentences around until it looks more polished. And then the editing part, you start doing the fine editing, um, uh, looking at grammar, punctuation, things like that during that stage. And then the publishing is the very last stage that you would go through. Publishing, of course, comes in different forms. So whenever writing a college paper or uploading it into Blackboard or Canvas, you're publishing it. You're turning it in. Uh, Other students may see is in the process, of course, your instructor sees, and of course, publishing to a wider audience as well. So let's take a look at stage one. I'm not going to read all of this here, but the key to a great paper is planning. Got to plan for it. Sit down, write about something. Um, Start off with a topic, free write. For an essay, you might generate a working thesis statement. And then, of course, that quote unquote working statement will change. A lot of times, whenever we sit down to write a paper, our thesis changes, our ideas change along the way. Brainstorm, likes, dislikes, uh, use graphic organizers, free write, or use a journal is a wonderful way to generate ideas. Ways to plan out your writing. I mentioned this cluster diagram or web, a storyboard. I'm not very familiar with that, but I know a lot of people do use that. Make an outline. Identify the pros and cons. You're writing an argumentative paper, list supporting arguments, maybe even use a T-chart for, against, or pros and cons. Sort and organize note cards by topic. Anything that kind of gets your ideas to flow. This is what you want and what you typically do in the pre-writing stage. And then you go into the drafting. Uh, Once you've planned out your ideas, the next step is just to start drafting, start writing it, start composing your writing, uh, uh, getting the ideas together and categorizing them in a way that you want to present your message, whatever that message may be. Um, you are the writer, and you're speaking through your writing, so you have a message to say. How do you want to sound in your writing? Drafts are for the writer. Drafts are not perfect. Um, that's why I say rough drafts are rough, and that's fine. Drafting takes time. It takes time to put your ideas together in a way that makes sense and in a way that um, uh, sounds silly or awkward. You got to put your words together in a way that you're sending off the kind of message that it is that you want to send. Revision works best when you have some time to let your writing sit. That is a very, very important aspect about writing. Writing is not typically do not have good results if you just whip something up the night before. Or the morning of, it takes some time. Allow yourself some time. Write a little bit and then let it be. Just let it sit, and then come back to it later. Then you start revising for audience. Audience is very, very important. You tailor your words, you tailor your sentences according to your audience. Revising for purpose. This all falls under something too called a rhetorical situation. In any type of writing, consider the rhetorical situation. That's the audience, the speaker, who all's involved, the time in which the writing takes place. All of that is the rhetorical situation. Then revising for purpose. What is your purpose? Revising for form. What kind of form are you aiming for? Editing. While revising focuses mainly on making your content clear for your readers, editing focuses on making your documents meet the conventions of standard. There's a typo of written English. And like I had mentioned before, this is where you're really polishing it up. The grammar, sentence structure, the word choice, punctuation, capitalization, spelling, citation, and document format. This is the editing portion of it. And writing is communicating. It's another form of communication. Publish your work when you turn it into your teacher. Send a letter to the editor. Entering an essay contest, writing a letter to a public official or company. All this is publishing. So these are the 5 stages of the writing process. Very important. You will go through all of these stages whenever you're writing your paper. I'd like to go over this here. Explanation of the essay structure. I just want to start off, I guess, on the second page. This is a visual, the structure of an essay. Start out general, provide some interesting background information, and then you go into more specific. This is where you present the thesis statement. Present the plan of coverage, including your line of argument, viewpoint, conclusion, whatever type of essay that you are writing. This is where that thesis statement's going to go. And then go into the body paragraphs. Each body represents a main idea. The linking, that is the transition. You transition from one main idea to the next and to the next. And then the conclusion. Is this like a funnel? Here it's opened up, but here it's like flipped over. So sum up your argument. Here's where, and it may not necessarily be an argument, but here's where you sum up reinstate the thesis. And then you branch out. It says here, perhaps mention wider implications, future directions. Now that I've shown you the visual, let's go up here to this written part. An introduction is a sentence used to get the attention of the reader. And it's a very nice opening to an essay. Perhaps this could be a line from a poem. If it's that, you may need to cite it. Or an old saying. Add some background information and then include that thesis. The thesis needs to be a clear, concise statement of what the essay will be about. The body of the essay is a coherent order of paragraphs. Like I mentioned before, they consist of one main idea for each body paragraph that will in turn circle up and support the thesis statement. Transitional statements, excuse me, let me go back up here. Each paragraph should have a topic sentence and major and minor details that follow. Transitional statements link the paragraphs together and ensure the paper will flow and will prevent the essay from sounding choppy. The transitional statement can be at the end of the paragraph or at the beginning. So let me explain this. Some writers opt to include this at the end of the paragraph to prepare the reader of the main idea that will come next in the series of coherent paragraphs. Others choose to include the transition in the topic sentence and use the previous main idea to expand on the main idea of the next paragraph. The conclusion is a summarization of all the main ideas presented in the essay. Basically, it's a reinstatement of the introduction and thesis. And of course, you'll see it, and I already went over it in the visual outline of the essay. So I hope you enjoy essay writing. It's fun. It's your way to communicate in the written format. I'll look forward to reading them. Thank you.